guess I'll introduce you, my good friend Bob.
And my good friend Pat.
Who I've had the pleasure of knowing for about a year and a half now, I guess, right?
Couple, yeah.
A couple of years. Maybe it's 2.5 years. Time flies. His background is in fruit research. Cherries, I guess, is his main specialty. And he's taught at Michigan, Clemson, and Cornell, right? Yeah. And I'm sure there's way more to say than that. Mostly, he's just a great guy.
Pat, thanks for having me back, and your staff as well. They always are very congenial and professional both, so that's good. Why don't we tell who we are and why you're here, if we could, before we get going. I'll say a little bit more about myself, just to tell how I might fit in here before we start talking about grafting. But why are you here, Debbie?
Yeah, I'm here because I want to learn how to do chip budding.
Right, and what do you do?
I have a plant nursery, and I already do some other kinds of grafting, but I've never done this kind.
Very good. Where do you do that?
Useful Plants Nursery. So we're at Earth Haven Eco Village, which is between Black Mountain and Old Fort.
Very good. Thank you. Just now you got the pattern now. Jump in.
I'm Jamie Davis. I've got a farm in Rutherford County, and we grow vegetables and we raise pigs. And we're starting to work on more perennials, and I've done some grafting. But chip budding is a little bit. I don't know. I've tried it. Some not successful. Some I'm waiting to see.
Okay. Good. So you have a bent toward a nursery then too, like Debbie does, or?
No, I'm more interested in producing my own plant material for
Sure.
planting on it.
For what you're doing. Wade?
I'm Wade. I actually work here in the gardens and greenhouses, and I love eating fruit. I love growing fruit, and I want to increase my knowledge and skills in growing fruit.
Very good. Ma'am?
I'm Jessica. I work at Jamie's farm in Rutherford County, and don't know a lot about grafting, or haven't done a lot of grafting, so I just wanted to come out, gain a little bit more knowledge, and learn more.
Very good, Jessica. Welcome.
Hey, I'm Brian. I'm interested in permaculture in general, and currently do edible landscaping and rainwater installs for living, and just interested in edible forest gardening and tree-related skills in general, so looking forward to learning more.
Yeah, welcome, Brian. Yeah.
And I'm Pat. I'm the director here at Living Web Farms, and really haven't done much with fruit in my life. I'm real excited about, we have a bunch of ornamental cherries across the street, and we're going to turn them into edible cherries, and that just thrills me. And want to learn to do more of that. We're talking about putting another orchard in over here at the housing that Wade and Kate stay at. That's an exciting project, so looking forward to a lot of that.
I'm Christine. I've got a small farm in Candler, and I want to learn good techniques to get it going.
I'm Tom Bailey. I'm a drainage engineer, but I'm also helping Christine with her farm, and we're just getting it going, so we're learning the techniques before we try stuff and mess up. We want to learn it first. I guess we can learn it and then mess up, right?
I'm just curious, do any of you have formal horticultural training in terms of degree training, an associate or a BS level? No, so we're all launching our careers from various places, like drainage engineering, and well, I'm the one that has more horticulture. Pat's been a baker and lots of different things in his life, but boy, he's got lots of things going on here that are dealing with plants and food, and he's pretty passionate about it. So you've met a really good guy here in Pat and his staff. They've got 3 farms, don't you, Pat? Yeah, that he's managing, and they got a production unit for charcoal. Made out of to make raw charcoal and to catch the fluid, the charcoal, the char vinegar that comes off of the liquid that comes off of it. And he's got lots of irons in the fire, and so
definitely that. We're good at irons in the fire.
Well, that's very interesting because he's got me started on vermiculture with redworms that I had never done. So I'm here mainly in terms of why I got to know Pat was to learn, but be part of the educational system that he's got going here. And it's been a lot of fun for me. He's had a couple of other really, really good experts in permaculture, in fruit here that have written books and things. I don't know, Brian, if you were here when he had the gentleman here with the real good,
Michael Phillips.
yeah, Michael Phillips and the big book. But I'm studying it when I get a little time to do that.
There's a lapis study in there, boy.
Well, I'm very fortunate in that I'm a 77-year-old that doesn't take any pills. So I'm lucky to be healthy. Been retired since 2004 from Cornell. Where I was doing plant breeding and extension work with all of the tree fruits except apples. Apples and grapes are so important in New York that they have big staffs working on them. And then the rest of the fruit crops, tree fruit crops anyway, there are people that it's very important to them, but overall they're not very important. And then besides that, I managed for a while the New York State Fruit Testing Association's nursery. That nursery is now defunct, but it went defunct through Cornell having gone the way of the other public institutions to start to patent their fruit varieties that they release. And once that happened, then you couldn't have the Fruit Testing Association putting nursery stock out of all the different selections and everybody having them all over the country without any control of them in terms of what had been done. So, but that nursery experience that I got in managing the New York State Fruit Testing Association was good. When I was at Michigan State, I got to be the superintendent of a very famous research station, made famous by my predecessor, not by me. The South Haven Experiment Stations bred the Haven peaches. And the Haven peaches are worldwide famous. Red Haven is still one of the dominant varieties in the world. And they also started the blueberry industry at South Haven, and it's gone all the way up the side of the west side of Michigan and spread a lot. Their National Public Radio just had the program on this week about blueberries, and Elizabeth White in New Jersey and Dr. Koval from the USDA, they're the ones in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey that really found out that you had to grow blueberries in the wild. They found out that the reason they were successful that they were on acid soil, and there was a lot of acid soil along the west side of Michigan. And so Stanley Johnson, the developer of the Haven peach, was blueberry grower #1 in Michigan, and he brought all the varieties that New Jersey was working on, like Jersey and Rubel, which are still important varieties that were taken right from the wild and not bred, just taken from the wild and became important high bush blueberry varieties. But my training was actually in vegetable breeding. I did a master's degree with peas and trying to plant the peas in the fall so that they would tiller like a wheat plant for winter wheat does and stay under the snow and then get a fast start in the spring. Interesting idea, but you have to have dependable snow. You can't have the fluctuations that happen in so much of the climate in the lower mitten part of Michigan. So the master's degree work was interesting. I was lucky that I worked with vegetable breeders that were really good at what they were doing and got me really enamored with vegetable breeding, and seeing segregation from crosses in lettuce was the first thing that really attracted me to say I really want to be a plant breeder. Does that make any sense to you who don't have a genetics or horticulture training? Do you know what I mean when I say segregation?
I actually have been pretty chastened and surprised because I told Chip Hope, who had a seed company, he was a teacher at Blue Ridge Community College, and he had all these lettuces growing together, and I said, they're not going to come true. And he separated all the seed and grew them out again, and they all came true.
Yeah, it's a self-pollinated crop. In fact, it's cleistogamous. Cleistogamous means that it pollinates itself before the flower opens.
Ah, because it looks like a regular old composite. It looks like it'd be pollinated.
it-
I mean, the bugs go to it.
They do, but they're too late. Yeah, so it's an interesting crop. You have to, when you're doing pollinations with it, you take the flower apart before it opens and wash it off with a water bottle, and then bring the pollen from the male that you want to use. And so that's. But in any event,
I thought I'd learned that tonight.
in any event, I got the opportunity to be a perennial crop breeder without any experience in doing that. I'd never grafted a tree myself. I'd been in nursery classes and I propagated things through cuttings, and I'd seen things going on with it, but I'd never actually grafted the plant myself. So pretty much all of my fruit knowledge is postgraduate after a PhD in plant breeding, but a PhD that didn't really teach me the things that you have to know for hands-on being a horticulturist with perennial crops. And I was very lucky that I had a couple of mentors that were, one a fruit grower and the other a major nurseryman. The major nurseryman's still alive at 86 right now, and I treasure his friendship. But they taught me a lot about how to do the things that we're going to do tonight, and to do them on a pretty big scale, actually. And then since I was involved in plant breeding with perennial crops that were graft propagated, I was involved in a lot of plant material distribution to commercial nurseries in Washington and Michigan and New York, and here the major in the southeast. Tennessee is really over around McMinnville, Tennessee is the major production area for nursery stock for tree fruit in the southeast, or at least one of the major ones. Well, anyway, so I'm lucky to have had that background and had the excitement. I would say not only excitement, just the spice in my life to be able to do these things and be working with several different crops. And spice in your life is probably one of the most important things I'd say that you could have. Boredom of why you have to go go gambling over in Cherokee and stuff, I can't understand that at all, because I've had a lot of fortunate.
Gamble in your backyard.
Yeah. I'm close enough to farmers and that we can say I gamble there. Okay. Well, so some of you said that Debbie told me that she had done some perennial dormant season grafting. That she's done whip and tongue grafting with dormant budwood. Cyanwood, I mean, and we can teach about that, and we have made some plants already here with Pat, some pear plants. We have a pear variety trial that we planted over on one of their farms that use the pear rootstock that we're going to use tonight. But the similarity between grafting in the winter and in the summer or late fall or spring is that the cambium is the key. Now, cambium, is that a familiar word to everybody? If not, I want to take a little time and talk about it. Just briefly, it's the most important part of making bark on the outside and wood on the inside. And that's where the rings come from. An annual rings is because every year there's an expansion of the bark to the outside, and then, of course, expansion in wood to the inside. I have to take time out for a little on that, because the water situation is terrible in the West, and I'm working in California now as a consultant in sweet cherry breeding for my first graduate student that I had. He now hires me. And the reason that I'm going to bring this up is that California is, of course, in a huge drought that makes ours look like we're lush here compared to where they are. But they drilled into some of the oldest trees in California purposely in the last couple of years to look at the question of how long were the previous droughts that we've had in recorded history. And the recorded history doesn't have to be written. It's on the inside of the tree by drilling a core into the tree and counting and looking at the width of the growth in the different seasons. And I haven't seen the paper. This is hearsay by me, but I think it's fairly reputable that they found some times that there were droughts of over 20 years, one up to 50 years, a drought period that long in the life of those very old trees. So the drought we're in right now is 5 to 6 years in California, but they were interested in how long it's going to be, and it could be a lot longer is what that was telling them. And so that's kind of interesting. It's kind of like drilling down through the ice in Greenland to see what's happened before in the weather in that respect. So the cambium's really important in both the winter and the spring. If you're gonna graft things, you have to have the cambium of the plant that's going to be the mother plant or the rootstock. It has to match up with the cambium of the piece of wood, like a bud or a stick that you're going to put in. You have to be cognizant of the fact that the diameters have to match in some sort of a way that cambium that's just between the bark and the wood will match up. And if they match up, then it's kind of like cutting your own arm and having a bandage, or you put it together and then the cells knit together. Well, so they'll knit together so long as they're in the same, not only in the same family. In this case, the rose family is what most of the tree fruit, including almonds and the tree nuts, are all in the rose family. And I'm doing like that because Debbie went with me, and we got an apple branch here, and it's part of the rose family. And then these are pears from the tree that's back here, and these pears from a neighbor tree of mine. But we could obviously find wood that's the same diameter in the pears and the apples, so we could put them together and match the cambiums, but they genetically are not close enough together to have them make growth that will knit and begin the cell division knitting together that goes on. So we'll put a couple of apple buds in the pears just for the fun of it this evening. And keep track of which part are the apple ones that we put in. All right, so now we can't do this all here. What my idea of this shop, as it said in the publicity about it, was, well, why don't we talk to people about what if they wanted to have only one tree in their backyard, or they wanted to have 2 or 3 trees, but they didn't have the pollinizers right, and they wanted to put some pollinizers in on the trees that they had existing. And so if the trees are young in your backyard, then it's really, and we're going to graft onto some young pear trees tonight. But if the trees are young, it's fairly easy to put a chip bud into them. And that's what we're going to do this evening. If they get to be bigger, then it's hard to have the chip from a little branch like this you have to use annual wood to be sure that you have a vegetative bud. And the annual wood means that it grew this during the current season, or in the winter, it's the winter budwood. It's the budwood that grew last year and you harvest it during the winter. Okay, well, so if you have this kind of diameter and the branches of your older tree are big, then it's hard to match this diameter of a bud. This bud came off of one of these sticks. You know, you can't get that's only like little over a quarter, might be a quarter of an inch wide, and you can't very easily make a chip where you cut a chip a quarter inch wide out of a branch that has bark that's that thick and that's that big around. So you'd have to go up higher in the tree to smaller wood that matched in terms of diameter, and that can actually be done. If you were wanting to put a pollinizer in the tree, the pollinizer doesn't have to be the whole tree. You can have as little as, say, 5% or so of the tree be in the pollinizer kind to pollinize the variety that's barren because its pollen doesn't work on it. So you could put this kind of wood in the top of a bigger tree, but what we're going to show you tonight is how to put it into a small tree. And you could put this pear came from one of my neighbors, and I didn't harvest one of Pat's last couple of pears that are over here for Pat and Jeremy. But you could put 2 or 3 into the same tree and have a tree with several varieties on the same tree. And that's kind of, so the two main things you could get out of this is you could have your own tree that you bought, that you could add different varieties to it for the purpose of having multiple varieties on the same tree and keeping an efficient use of yard space if you were a home orchardist trying to do that. And the other part, to go back then again and say it, is that most of the pears and apples are not self-fruitful. They actually evolutionarily have developed a system where their own pollen won't grow down through the style and to the ovary. There's chemical made that prevents it from doing that, and that's to ensure outcrossing and to ensure that the variability of the species is, it's a natural thing through evolutionary times to have them be able to have their offspring, the seeds that are in the fruit, be from hybrids instead of from self-pollinating. And peaches are the big, in the rose family of trees that we eat a lot of, peaches and nectarines have a lot of self-fertile, most of them are self-fertile, and nobody has come up with a really good explanation for why evolutionarily that happened, that peaches are so narrowly adapted. For the most part, self-fertile plants are considered to be narrowly adapted because that makes them more able to take advantage of the microclimate that they're in. But peaches are pretty widespread across Asia from where their origin is from. And so
Are they self-fertile like lettuce and that there's not any chance of crossing? Or are they just self-fertile like a tomato that could still get crossed? Not likely, but can.
it's really like the tomato, but actually more toward outcrossing because they're insect pollinated routinely, and the insects are bringing things from, and in the wild they're bringing things from neighboring plants. But why they didn't develop the evolutionary thing that exists, and it's also true in sour cherries. Sour cherries are, for the most part, are self-fertile. Whereas sweet cherries we've created self-fertile ones by mutation genetics, but they're not normally self-fertile. What kind of things are going on in your mind right now before we go down to the orchard question kind of things that maybe it wasn't clear what I was driving at? Any things you want to ask about, talk about? Wade?
Well, this might be kind of a beginner's grafting question, but
That's
I know
okay.
that you can put different varieties of pears on the Bradford pear rootstock, which is very fire blight resistant. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Do you ever get in the ones you put on the other characteristics of the Bradford pear, which is that they can really just drop a lot of branches in a storm? They're kind of fragile in that way, or is that?
So what he's showing you that he knows something about the rootstock that we're going to use tonight. And we're going to use Bradford pears, as he said. They're the ornamental pear variety that you see around a lot of parking lots, and you see more and more of them spread out into the wild because the birds like those little bitty pears that they have, and they poop out the seeds and they're getting spread around. But they have the disadvantage, they have the advantage of being fire blight resistant and early blooming with some beauty to some people, but they're also quite brittle. And a lot of people are dissatisfied if they have any kind of a windy site that they're breaking up. He wants to know whether or not the cyan varieties that we put on it, whether the trait of brittleness is transmitted to the cyan. We don't have enough experience with that, at least I don't, to know the answer to that. We've been trying them here in North Carolina and have some plantings out, including the one here with this Living Web farm, because of the fire blight resistance, because Pyrus communis, the European pear, is overall considerably more fire blight susceptible to a bacterial disease called fire blight. And the further south you go, the more likely that you'll have serious fire blight that can kill the tree right back to the ground. And so we've been trying to grow some varieties of pears on Bradford to see if they'll be if the rootstock will impart some of its fire blight resistance to them. And we don't really even know that. A kind of a neat thing that's going on that I've been hearing about but haven't been participating in is that there's a group of people in Asheville that are hobbyists that have gone around and they're grafting pears into Bradfords kind of around on the streets in Asheville with the idea that they can take advantage of that fire blight resistance. So we didn't put out anything like whole orchards to try this out, Wade. We just have little groups of 5 and 6 trees of 3 or 4 different varieties. The cyan varieties have a varying level of susceptibility to fire blight. So if we have these in 3 or 4 different places and 3 or 4 different varieties, we probably can learn whether or not we're going to have some help from the fire blight resistance. And Pat and his staff here made a planting over another one of their farms with a few of these, but they also have a few of our leftover rootstocks from a year ago that we're going to use tonight that are Bradford pear rootstocks. Well, this is a pretty simple thing in terms of the equipment. The equipment for this, I have right here. I have the plastics that are used instead of rubber bands. Rubber bands used to be used that are grafting rubber bands, and now plastic is pretty much used because the weather, you can just leave it on. You don't have to cut it to get it off. The weather just, through seasoning, it disintegrates, and so you can use this. My roll has gotten kind of a bad wear, and so I've already pulled a bunch of these off for us to use. We're going to have, I've got, my goal is to teach you a safe way to do this, because I've had bad experience and had people go to the hospital from not paying attention to the safety things that you need to do. And to have everybody try to put a couple of buds in and to ask questions about it and let us look over your shoulder as you do it. So why don't we take my apple and my 2 pears and my grafting rubbers. This is my sharpening stone, and this is my labeling thing with do I have my pencil? I don't know if I do. I thought I did. Yeah, it's in my pocket. I got it. It's a Sharpie. Let's go down to the Bradford pear seedlings. Did anybody else have another question besides Wade's?
Is the variety you brought from your neighbors fire blight resistant?
Well, I can't answer that for sure, but it looks a lot better than your tree. So I think it is, Pat. I don't know what the variety is. I don't know the neighbor. I just stopped and trimmed it off. I've been watching it for 4 or 5 years, and I've never seen it have fire blight. Ah. Well, the dahlia garden that I'm standing in got these pears planted in it to rescue them, and the squirrels have been planting walnuts here. So this is a Bradford pear seedling by the camera. Another one here and 2 more over there. So we got 4 seedlings we can work with here to do something with them. And I'm going to talk about taking care of the budwood first. So I make it look like that it's very easy because I just went and got it this evening. But usually that isn't what happens. Usually what happens is that you end up going someplace that you've got to get the budwood the day before or a week before, and you have to know something about how to take care of it and what to do with it. So let's talk about that first. One of the first things about collecting budwood is to try to be sure that you know and have trueness to name. In other words, you have some source that tells you specifically what the material is, and that you cut the budwood. If you're cutting big quantities like nurseries do, it's essential that you leave the leaves on and that you get as much cut as you can, and put it in a burlap or wet burlap in a tub of water or something that'll keep it fresh. If you're cutting a lot. If you're cutting a few, 2 or 3 like we're doing, then the ideal thing to do is to cut the leaves off immediately from each stick that you cut. And we said already that you cut sticks of annual growth that were made this past year. And I said the reason we do that is because there's a vegetative bud at the axil or the base of the leaf on on the annual wood of almost all of the Rosaceae species. So I'm cutting, leaving a little bit of a handle on the bud. You know, it's about not quite a ½ inch long piece of the stem from the leaf is being left on there, and I'm used to doing it by, if you go down the branch this way, you tear them. If you go up the branch this way, you can do it and get a little handle for the bud that you're going to be handling and getting a chip of. And if you get way up to the tip of this stick of wood, it starts to get so green and so fresh and so new growth that it's soft and it's compressed. And even though it looks like that would grow best, if you're making softwood cuttings and going to put moisture around them, maybe so. But in this case, we want it to be seasoned enough by its growth in this earlier, older wood from the season, so that it won't be so likely to get desiccated by hot weather. And so we just cut the end off of that and throw it away. And now I've got one bud stick of this, and assuming so I would go ahead and get all of these ready if I were cutting budwood someplace. Sure.
If you need that, I have a knife. If you need it for something else you're doing.
Do you have a sharp knife?
I have a sharp knife that's serrated. It's sharp. Sure.
All right. So you saw I was cutting against my thumb so that you get control of it. All right. Well, so if you got three sticks from the same tree and you got them all stripped down, then you should label them. And this kind of flagging tape is probably the easiest thing to use, because you can write on it with a Sharpie, and right there on the spot before you start the next tree or the next kind, you need to get a label on the one that you've cut and you have ready. And then it needs to be put in moist conditions, like carrying along a roll of wet paper towels and a plastic bag, like the big plastic bags that you could, by big I mean like a Ziploc, that you could put, the big ones that you could put it in. And put a label on the outside of the bag too, or write on the outside of the plastic bag if it's one of those kind that you can write on. But labeling, keeping things true to name is something you're going to appreciate the importance of, even if you're just doing it for a home orchard, because you're going to want to know which ones are working. And yes.
Question.
Yes.
This appears a little diseased. That there is also making that leaf stem
Cut it shorter.
So that doesn't matter. I don't have to take it out.
Well, I don't know what the disease is for sure that's on that pear, and the tree is growing very well. It's unlikely that disorder. Okay, but I'm going to criticize your work.
Too short, too long?
Too long.
See, I always thought I could trim them more if I need to.
Well, you
too
can't.
Short would be no good. So.
No, well, too short.
Just
right. Just right is 1/3 of an inch.
So those are too long too?
Yeah. Okay, the reason I'm saying that is because they tend to push back, and they're nice to handle and a little stiffer toward the bottom. If you go out longer, they get flimsier. So I left one a little bit longer on this, but for the most part, these are around 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch long, and that's for a purpose because they're stiffer. Yeah, good job, Pat. And okay, so we took care of labeling. We took care of the kind of wood. It has to be annual wood. We took care of storing it, except for what to do when you get home. Where do you suppose you put it?
Refrigerator?
Yeah, in the crisper. Okay, would you put it in with the apples or pears? No, they're producing ethylene. So it'd be better if you had a beer refrigerator.
Or I need an excuse for one.
Yeah, there you go. No, it'd be better if you had some way that you could exclude ethylene that's being made by the ripening fruit and vegetables, because that makes reduces the livelihood of the bud. The ethylene's actually what causes leaves to drop in the fall. So it's a important natural chemical but it's one that can cause a problem if you had to keep the budwood a long time.
Like 3 days or something, is that gonna matter much?
No, it's not going to matter much. It's probably much more important for you who have been doing dormant wood work and trying to keep it. If you're going to put dormant wood away for 2 months or so, you may get it collected in January to be sure that it's good and dormant, and you would want to be fairly sure that you didn't have it where there was a high level of ethylene.
You know, they have those green bags at the French Raw Food Co-op that are supposed to cut down on ethylene production, and things last a lot longer in them. That probably would help.
Huh, that's a
I
great,
use them and it lasts a long
great
time.
contribution. I wasn't aware of that. Well, so we got the budwood taken care of, except for questions. Questions about the budwood that we're going to bring back. So usually I take it to the field in a picnic cooler with some ice cubes in it to keep it, because usually you're not going to just do one. If you're just going to go do one in your backyard and get it out of the refrigerator and get out there and get the job done. But if you're going to do quite a few, well, it's probably better to have a refrigeration of some sort to keep it fresher. All right, so, Pat, cut off the end of that thing, Pat. It's too flimsy out there. Remember?
I thought you'd done that already.
No, go back quite a lot further.
Okay.
To where the green starts.
All right.
Yeah.
Right there, right?
At least to there. Yeah, there you go. All right. Everybody can have a look, if you haven't already, at what the buds look like at the base of those little stems. Keep working.
Yes, sir.
So they're pretty small.
And this is the one you prepared, right?
I think so, but it's
That's not too green.
it's
Three leaves coming
it's
from one place
borderline.
is still one bud, or is there more than one bud?
Aha. So Pat, that's great that you did that. What happened here? Who can see what happened?
You get some
Aha.
idea.
Right on. You gotta cut that off.
I can't use that. Okay.
All right. So
we cut that off?
aha. That's 2-year-old wood.
Right there.
The change happened right there. But I'm sorry that I cut it off without passing it around for people to see. There's a obvious growth ring right there, and the other part, the way you can tell it, is that pears make spurs. Spurs are short, little woody growth that can sometimes have flowers and not always have flowers. But if it's got woody growth and not a stem then obviously you're into older wood, because that had to grow last year, that grew from the vegetative bud that was there last year. This little branch grew. Is that clear to everyone? That branch grew from the bud like that. So that's further proof that this is 2-year-old wood, like you said. Okay, well, so the buds are pretty small, but the key thing to what we're doing is we're going to take this tree and put a bud into it. I don't know how we're going to get so people can see a little better. I guess one of the things I want to warn you about is that I'm just cutting these buds off that are here, because we don't want them. But what I'm going to warn you about is Bradford not only is fire blight resistant, is also thorny, and they'll poke you. They'll really poke you. And so the interesting thing is that thorn that grew this year grew from a vegetative bud that was there, and what caused it to be stimulated to grow? I know that it's natural growth regulators, but it's the genetics of this pear to make thorns. And the thorns, of course, evolutionarily are there because they're they're keeping certain kind of critters away from the plant in the wild. But we don't want them to keep human critters away, so I'm cutting them off of here so that we don't get stuck by them. There's another one. Okay, well, so what I said to you was that we're looking for some wood on this tree. That this young tree is, we're assuming that maybe for now, let's assume that we had Bradford planted and that we grafted something onto it like a Bartlett pear, and now we want to put a different pear on it. So I'm wanting to put a chip bud into here that's the same diameter as this wood. So you can see my wood is just a little bit smaller. I'd have to go up to about here to get it to be about the same diameter as this, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so all I'm going to do to make a chip bud, I'm just going to make a notch. All I did was push down pretty hard and made a notch. That's the bottom of my chip. And then I'm going to cut the chip out. It's gone. And then I'm going to push that notch down just a little bit so that it's got a little flap there to it. All right, so the cambium is this layer, the light green layer that's in between the white wood and the bark there. And that's the key thing, that we want to match up the diameter so that the cambium of this piece of wood and the chip is the same. So I'm going to do the same thing with this, but now it's not, I didn't pay any attention to whether there was a bud there or not. I just cut the chip out from between. But now I want to be sure that I get one that has a bud in it. And I make that notch at the bottom, and I cut flat. All right, so I'm going to cut in and down to that notch, pulling it to there. It didn't drop right out of there, but it will when I finish the cut. Now, how close did I come to having it be the same size as this? That's the interesting question. Yeah, and it wasn't good because it's too long. So the easiest thing to do is to make this one longer by cutting some more across there. You know, I made it so that it should match up in length now. I'm spitting on it because it makes it stick to it just a little bit. Now I got it almost perfect in terms of the length. So everybody see that? The chip is just laying right in there. It's the same, and the little flap that I cut is kind of holding it. Why do I want to hold it? Because I need to have one of those plastics that are, can you see one of them, Wade? Yeah, just tear one off at the dotted line. Give me one of the crummy ones. No, I can use the one that's all floppy. All right. Okay, so I'm going to hold the. Whoa, there it went. How about that? I didn't make my flap long enough. It's all right. We cut another one. The reason you make that flap is for what just happened there. I didn't make the flap quite deep enough to hold it. So rather than hunting the grass, we're going to cut another one. All right, so I cut the notch.
So you want as close as possible to an exact match for
the chip. Yeah, for the size of the chip. Now I got to go back and fix what I didn't do right the first time. I now have it almost at least an eighth, closer to a quarter of an inch of flap that's down there. And that flap holds it. And I just push it down, and it's now I can tie it. So I hold this with my arm up here, and this looks pretty crappy, but it's going to stretch quite a lot. Now watch what I do. See, I've got my thumb here, and this finger, so I held it like that with this finger. Oh, well, Better have another one, Wade. All right, so I stretch it and put it over it. And I take this finger and hold it so I can come around and get it. And I go right over the top of the bud. And then I get up here and I stretch it out and I tie it by putting my fingers like this. It's done. So,
by the time that's fused, the plastic is broken off and disappeared.
yeah, it disintegrates enough that you don't need to worry about the plastic.
But it doesn't happen that fast. It'll heal in 3 weeks or so.
It'll heal and yeah.
But the plastic it'll push bud through the plastic.
Yeah, it will. Thank you. But it does disintegrate as well. You don't ever have to come back to take it off. Well, thank you for that point. So a couple of things happened here that there's quite a lot of experience went into my learning to do them, and that I was showing you. We have one good branch here that somebody can work on. This one is pretty small, but somebody may be able to work on that one. We have another bigger tree over there. But why don't you be the... Have you done this before? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, does somebody... Have you done it, Brian? Mm-hmm. Okay. You want to be the guinea...
I maybe did it once.
You want to be the guinea pig to try to do it?
I didn't get to see too good the first time, so I might let
Okay, all right, that's good. Well, what I wanted to reemphasize before somebody starts to do this, making this cut that's below the bud, I make it about a ½ an inch below it, and I slant it back so that it's slanted like the slant that's going to be on the flap. So you didn't necessarily see that I slanted the bud like that. I slanted the cut, I mean. Then, and you didn't necessarily see that I locked my thumbs together like this so the knife can't slip. I got close to this, but my thumbs are locked together like that. And that's what protects you from chopping your knuckles and having to go to the hospital instead of getting the grafting done. So then the next thing that is happening, that should happen, is you move up to about a ½ an inch or so above the bud, and you lay your knife back flatter, so that you're coming as flat as you can, and not going way deep into the wood because it gets hard to cut. But the wood is soft. You're right. It's getting too soft in the. So he suggested that this looked pretty green when he was looking at it, and he's right. It's pretty green and floppy. So we probably should be using one of those darker brown sticks instead of this. All right, to review what I just said, this is safety stuff. You lock your thumbs together and you do the cut below the bud about a ½ an inch, slanting the knife a little bit, but you don't have to worry about cutting yourself if you lock your thumbs together, because you're controlling the knife with this part of your hand. You're not controlling it like pushing, like that. So locking your thumb. Then to finish it, you go a ½ an inch above, and you slant the knife more than what you did down here, because you're wanting to not go too deep into the wood, and you pull the knife down through the bud to the cut, and I just naturally put my glue on it right away, and then it's better to actually make this cut first, so you see roughly how long it is, but you saw that you can actually expand the length of this cut, the one that's on the rootstock, in case that if you don't get it exactly right, you can match it up some by cleaning the cut up.
And so you never worry about touching the face of it and contaminating it anyway.
No, I've done thousands and thousands of them, and putting them in your mouth and stuff. The bacteria that are in your mouth are not bacteria that affect this. And that little bit of moisture that's on there helps it lay down and stay on there.
And then this is this year's growth.
Yes, sir.
And so there's no problem doing, as long as it's
The same diameter. Excuse me.
But as long as it's hard enough to take a...
Right. That's why I did it down here instead of up here, for that same reason. That would be, the knife will just go through it like butter if you get up into this really fresh growth that's up there in the top.
But if somebody wanted to practice and we wanted another site, could you do it there too?
Yeah, you can just move up. The diameter of this is still good. So somebody can put one in next. You want to put one in? Please? Sure. Oh, excuse me. If you got that roll that's down there has some more rubber bands in it.
Thirsty, I'd buy some water. Use a drink?
No, I'm good, thanks. Pretty flat now. You get the same way you're doing here. You make it pretty deep at the bottom and pretty flat at the top so that they match. Yeah, nice. Take that out of there and give yourself your flap. You don't want... Yeah, well, so you'll probably still work.
Take your first chicken. And match the diameter, right?
That away. And then move your thumbs and fingers up to when you take the other cut. Got to get a little bite. It gets hard right underneath the bud. Yeah, you knew that already because you've done it before. Okay, yeah, that away.
Good job.
And so then here, it's a little bit
over.
My bud is a little bit.
But you went so deep below that you surely must be able to push it down just a little further and have it fit.
Oh, it fits in there.
Yeah.
But the cut up here is wider. Does that?
Well, it's not ideal, but as long as you got some of it that's pretty good contact, it's probably going to be fine. Stretch the band, stretch it, that way. And come over and catch it.
You come through here?
Well, I'm not left-handed, so I'm not sure I can do it to give.
It's the same way you went.
You're good.
Yeah, keeping it flat if you can. So, commercially, for nurseries that are making trees, they're putting them in 2 inches above the ground in rootstocks that are the right diameter, but they slide along the ground and they get paid by how many buds they put in. They get paid 11 cents a bud to put them in. At least that was the number most recently that I knew. Yeah. You can. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied through like I did. I'm used to doing that because of using rubber bands. Right. But this is stretchy enough and sticky enough that it sticks to itself enough. Very, very good. Very nice job. Okay. Somebody else want to try another one?
You're saying commercially they do them 2 inches above the ground, and so is that just?
They sit on the ground and slide along backwards, and they carry all the budwood in a roll, a moist roll, and they do that. Well, they can sit on their knees too, but it gets your back after a while.
Any idea how many an hour they manage to do?
Let's put it this way: they make more than minimum wage by a long ways. So you can divide 11 cents or multiply 11 cents
Several
times.
hundred an hour.
Yeah, why don't you try it over on there, on that one?
Try to make the bud face out, or does it not matter? Because
That's
whichever one takes you.
that's really a great question. There, here in this climate, I don't have enough experience to know whether sunburn's likely to be a problem. In California, you would do it on the shadier side, away from the west and the southwest, because of sunburn. But here, I don't think we have that much intensity and so I think that it doesn't matter on the circumference of the stick where you put it in, Brian.
Okay.
So
in this case,
rather than into the tree?
Excuse me, Deb.
Wouldn't you want it to grow out of the tree rather than into the tree?
that probably also
See her point? Did everybody see her point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she's remembering that we're doing this in a home orchard, and to make a new part of the tree to be this, and you're wanting the bud that's going to grow out of this, you're wanting it to grow in a direction that would be favorable for where you'd have the branch. Good point, Debbie.
So could I try this like outside right here?
Sure.
That'd be decent, or maybe.
I think the easiest thing for you to get at and people to
right
see is on this side, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're saying that commercially it needs to be done down here 2 inches above the ground?
Yeah.
Would they top the tree or would just...
No. That sits in there over winter. If they put these in the spring, they top it after a week or so. In Tennessee, they make June budded trees where they took the growth that grew this spring up till June, and they put that wood gets mature enough that they can put it in the rootstocks. If you go north of the Potomac, you have to put it in August or early September and let it sit over winter, and in the spring you cut the top of the tree off and grow the bud, and then you have to take the other buds off below that are from the rootstock that you don't want. How you coming, Brian?
Are people who were further out wanting to come in closer so they get a close-up?
Yeah, it's a
That's
real
right, I catch what you're
close-up
saying.
thing.
So which bud do you think? Like this one?
I didn't mean to catch people.
So you don't need to worry about buds on this. Remember, you can work in between. You can work in between because those buds we're gonna rub them off. We don't want them.
Right.
And so you're just wanting to make your cut somewhere a little.
Gotcha. Okay, and you make the bottom cut first. That'd
Remember?
Can you hold that?
Yeah, sure will. There you go. Good.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
Like that?
Now you can bow it back a little bit towards yourself, and it'll make it easier, probably.
Not that long?
Yeah, like that. All right, and then if that isn't, don't do it that way. Make your top cut into it. You got her?
So.
Not yet. Oh yeah. Okay. So you probably got enough of a flap there that it'll work. So, for me, Brian, I find that it works best if you try to let this go underneath your arm and you get a little bit of a bow to it so that you're managing that so it's not in your way by your... Now you have to have a bud though.
Yeah,
oh, you're doing your bottom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I beg your pardon.
Is that what you're supposed to do? Do the bottom?
Yeah, yes it is. It is.
Right.
You're doing it right. I just got too anxious. That's the way. Work your knife. That's the way. Uh-huh.
You know, lick it?
That way.
Might be too short.
Well, so we're not going to worry about it being too short. You can't fix that very easily. You can, if you want to use the flap, I wouldn't worry about that. You're trying to make it be nice and straight across, but you know.
That's just going to be a scar, right? It won't matter at all if that little bit of wood shows through it, right?
that look like it's got a shot?
Okay, now, so that,
Does that look?
yeah, you're, I like it. I like it a lot. So get over top of it so that you're, I mean with your hands. So you've stretched. You want to stretch the wood. No, stretch it first.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, and then get the stretched part of it right on, so that it's about a third of an inch below where you made your cut. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that away. Try to keep it flattened out. Start again. All right. Good idea.
And then sever the whole thing?
Keep going.
You sever the whole thing, right?
Yes, sir. Go right over it. And keep it flattened out like you're doing, and go at least the width of the stuff above where your top cut starts. Keep going up. There you go. Okay, now you can just pull it hard and yeah, that's the way. Good job.
All right.
Good job.
I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Could I chip graft something on the cherry? Could I take one of the buds from the new growth of this year? It's too young. The growth is too young, right?
No, it's August. It's as old as this.
Okay. All right. So would that be
You're
possible?
asking this about the cherry. So if we have enough time, we can walk over there and see the dormant wood where we did a top working by putting dormant wood into the top of a big branch.
That's what I was thinking. It'd probably be too young. Because that's what I'd want to graft. I don't want to graft more ornamental to ornamental.
No, but anyway, the answer to your question is you would probably choose to cut one of the sticks off completely and use the older buds down to the bottom of it if you're going to do it.
I'm not saying.
So I think that the big tree over there is probably a better candidate for the next person that wants. Deb, you going to try it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get you a plastic band. I'd like to sharpen the knife a little bit, but I can't remember if I brought. Yeah, I did. Let me sharpen it just a little bit.
So if the diameters are compatible, can you graft onto the
So
older wood of the tree?
I don't know whether you're watching, but you can see that my thumb doesn't my fingers don't overlap the level of the stone, and it's again a thing where you don't have to be very careful if you're got set up right, because I'm not going to cut myself because I'm not. It's down below the edge of the stone. Okay, so let's go over here and see what we can find. Well, so this is good. We are not going probably are not going to use this one, but it's interesting to talk about it. So you can tell by the leaves that this is a pear. It's not a dahlia, but it's come up from way down here at the 2-inch level, where if we were going to bud this tree to make a commercial tree, we would put it down there in this, and it's woody enough that you could do it. But you can see it wouldn't be very comfortable getting down there on your hands and knees to put that in. The rest of it is too floppy and too green, and we really can't use it. So these branches up here, unfortunately, are just about as floppy and green as this one. I'm afraid we're going to have to go back over to that tree that we were working on, Deb. I think these are too green and too limber. So
can you go into the
1-year-old
second-year wood, or does it have to be the first-year wood?
Well, it doesn't have to be the first-year wood. Actually, it's great that you ask that, because the probability of a take is better in 1-year wood than in 2. But 2-year-old wood that is the same diameter as that, it can be. I'd say for what you're going to try to do, that's probably it's probably a better tree to work on than going over to back over to that one. I'd say try to get a bud right into there if you can, from the bigger diameter part of your stick.
So you're probably looking success is better up here than if you just for some reason decided to do it down here.
Oh, down in here?
Yeah.
Well, the diameter's too big down there, Wade, and it's hard to get the match of the diameter of your chip to the diameter of the bud you're going to put in. It took me about a half hour to get these few little pieces out of the roll that I have because it got hot. And once it gets hot, it starts to seal along the edges and you can't get it loose. Anyway, they're nursery companies. A.M. Leonard is the name of a nursery supply company that's online, and you can buy this grafting tape from them. Whoop. Oh, got away from you.
Yeah, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
It's along the length. and so
okay,
it'll be a
it probably will. If you'd help her pictures if we took that limb off. Whoops, excuse me.
So were you doing this towards you up here or away from you? When you were doing this one, were you doing it towards you or away from you?
I can't answer without putting my hand and trying it, Debbie.
I thought it was towards you.
Yeah, it was. But I was locking my thumbs together so that it can't. See, you got your thumb up here, and I'm going to demonstrate again.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see it.
That's okay. That's okay. So what I did is I put my thumbs together,
Okay.
and I pulled the knife with my hand like that. If you don't lock your thumbs together, the other possibility, of course, is to work away from yourself. But then what happens is it slips, and you go like happened here, where it went on by. So the reason that you're doing this is that when you lock your thumbs together, you have a lot of control, and you control it, and it won't slip and go right on by in terms of the cut. And then you do the same on the top, but you slant it more. So it's hard to make yourself do this, Deb, but
I'm like, okay, this way.
I want you to take your left. Are you right-handed?
Yes.
Okay, so take your left hand and put it below the bud, about a 3/4 of an inch, and then put the other thumb from your right hand that you're going to pull right on top of your thumbnail.
Okay. Too far away, right?
Well, so you got a long cut that you made below, so it probably won't hurt. So now the trick is, Deb, you move your thumbs up so they're right on top of this. So you're controlling it, and then you move them down some as you need to. It gets harder to cut as you go right underneath the bud. And that's why you want to lock them together, is because it can slip. Rock it back and forth so that it goes through there. And now keep going right on down. Okay, good. So it got a little narrower at the bottom than what you wanted, but that's going to be all right.
It'll be okay. That's one thing. Okay.
Now, because we use the same diameter wood on the top and the bottom, then that means that the cambiums have to match up because we use the same diameter. If you didn't use the same diameter, what you do to try to make up for that is you angle the bud across from one side to the other side, so it has contact on both sides, but it doesn't have contact all along, not near as much surface to heal into. It'll work angling it across so it touches on both sides.
So this one, since I did it shallower, it's a little narrower. So
Is
I'll have to skew it a little bit.
That you should. So,
Yeah.
so and remember now what we did is we stretched. You get it. Oh, yeah, you get it stretched before. Good girl, lady.
Yeah, so when you're doing it, how much attention, when you insert the bud and are wrapping it, how much attention are you giving to how
You want to have
how
over.
much cambium contact is
Well, so you actually can feel it enough to straighten it out. I think that's what you're asking. Can you do some manipulating of the bud as you're tying it?
or even do you just say, I've got the diameters match, I'm going to stick it in there?
Oh, if you got the diameter right, you can just go ahead, stick it in there and wrap it. But if you know that it's a little narrow, then you've got to make a little more sure that you've angled it across to get both sides. Good girl. Done. I got the knife in my pocket.
I gave you that.
Great. So I wanted to talk for a minute before if anybody that wants to do it is going to get a shot. Wade's going to get it. But I wanted to talk for a minute about a different kind of bud that's often done instead of a chip. Technically, the nursery probably uses a T-bud more often with buds that they're using for, say, peaches and things that they're trying to do a lot and do them relatively fast. A T-bud, instead of taking the chip out, you make a line and then cut across the top of it so that it's in the form of a T on the rootstock, and then what you do with the bud that's coming off of the stick is instead of slanting the knife this way so that it's a wedge shape like that, instead you slant the knife the other way and roll it so the skin or the bark is rolled up, and you make the same cut down to that we made, but instead of leaving the wood in there, you take your fingers on the side of it and pull it so the wood stayed there, and I have the bud with just the bark, but it's covered with cambium cells because there were cambium cells right there between that, and it's covered with cambium cells. And so then this piece of bark with the cambium cells on the inside is slipped inside of that T, the T that's made in the rootstock, where you make a line down and turn it back, and in the summer like this, the bark is loose enough in August so that this slipped off of there nicely. So what happens with the T is that you make the T so you make the cut that's the up and down cut, and then slant this, and by my rolling it like that, see how it just lays right open? Can any of you see that? Well, when you get good at it, then you get that so that it's the right diameter, and you just slip this in. And the diameter of my rootstock is and the bark is too flimsy, so it just tore it all the way back. But I think you have the idea.
You wrap that up with the tape?
Yeah, then you wrap it up with the tape. And
Bob, didn't we do that last
We
June?
got a great.
You got a video of that whole thing.
did you?
Very
Good.
cool.
Well, I wanted to be sure I had shown that there's two ways of doing this today. Actually, for a beginner, it's actually easier to do the chip and match them up and use that flap to do it. But in terms of getting a lot of buds in and having a lot of them take, the commercial people that are doing it down there close to the ground are using T-buds for the most.
More effective?
Well, it's faster for them. They can. It gets a higher percent of take in the season that they're doing it, and for apples and pears, they can almost always get above 90% all the time. Peaches and cherries are harder, and so then they want to use T-buds because peaches and cherries are going to get a lower percentage, about 50 or 60% take in the nursery, and they want to get as close to 100, and they actually get paid not for just putting the bud in, but they keep track of who put the bud in, and they get paid a bonus for the percentage that took in the commercial nursery grafters.
So you're trying to match diameter?
Yes, sir.
Very much.
Yeah, it can be slightly bigger in the case of the T-bud because you don't have to have what you're depending on. I'm so glad you asked that question, because what you're depending on is that there are a lot of cambium cells that are on the wood on the inside, as well as the contact that you get out on the edge of that chip. You have all of those cambium cells, and that's the reason that actually it gets a better take, because you have so much more cambium surface that's coming in contact. So you have to picture in your mind that this single layer of cells, when you took it apart, a lot of them stayed on the bark, and a lot of them, probably equal amounts, stayed on the wood on the inside. And so you got all these cambium cells that are on the shield that you're sticking down in there. You got all these cambium cells that are on the wood as well. Wade, we're going to go back over there, I think. Wade.
Would there be a place on this one that could be good too?
Well, yeah, I suppose.
We better do that.
Well, I don't know. So this plate right up in here is probably is a possibility. I don't know if we got anything that maybe. Can you work that high, Wade? That right up here?
Can try.
Okay. Well, let's see how you could do on that 2-year-old wood up in here then. So just bend it down so you can work with it. I'll get these out of your way.
And so,
You want to use them?
sure. Would this be a good spot here, since
Yeah, I'd say right.
I'd actually be facing the sun?
Don't worry about that for right now. You worry about the techniques of getting it cut and putting it in there for right now. That's what we're trying to get people to have a shot at it. Okay, so if you put this underneath your and let it go back a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, that's here I'm gonna. Okay, now you got it, so you can manage your hands. And yeah, that is a great spot. So you want to do the bottom? No, wait. The bottom, you tip your knife that way. No. Let me review it. The bottom part of the flap,
right.
you tip it quite a lot.
Okay, well,
And then when you cut the chip out, you tip it back and start from the top, flatter. That's good. You're probably just fine.
is that a good size flap?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll come from the top here.
Yeah.
Oh, and that one will.
No, slanted like that, yeah, and go right down into that, but try not to let it slip. If you rock the knife back and forth like that, it'll go. The fact that you're working in 2-yard wood makes it harder.
Yeah.
You're slanting the knife like this more than you should. You want to
like this.
there. That's what you want. Yeah, there you go. Now you got it. Just keep it down in there. Keep there.
Bottom of the flap.
Got her? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Just throw it away.
So what about that size?
Yep. Now where'd our budwood go? We got to find a stick of budwood.
Need a Band-Aid?
Well,
Is that long enough?
All right, so that you want to get down here to this bottom bud if you can, because that's the biggest diameter, and you're in relatively big diameter on here.
So
this bud right here with it has the handle on it. So you just repeat the same thing you did on here with this, but keep the bud.
Yeah. I'll do the flap down below.
There you go. Now you don't need as much to worry about the flap on that. The flap over on the rootstock helps hold the bud, but you don't.
Look at that size again.
There you go.
Shoot for the same size.
Yeah, it's a little over a ½ inch, huh?
So I can always trim it down.
Yeah. So if you rock the knife back and forth like that, it'll work its way through without, if you do it like you're doing with your thumbs, great, that's really good, Wade, the way you're using your thumbs.
I know it's going to be tougher down here below the bud.
Yeah, it gets really tough underneath the bud. Rock it back and forth. There. So it slips some on you, but that's all right. Go on down in there. It might be injured a little bit, but you go on down in there to your cut. Rock it back a little bit more so that you correct for the fact that it got narrow on you.
Ooh, that's can't be in there.
Okay, so we're going to do it over. Throw it away. Oh, I see. You got it.
We have some cambium here, don't we?
Yeah, you do. Kind of scrappy.
Yeah, it is kind of scrappy. Should we do a different one, or?
Yeah, I'd say. Well, let's put them. Let's go ahead and put it in. I mean, you understood what happened.
Mm-hmm. So come down here. Tuck this underneath.
Tuck that in and push it down until the top gets down to where you can push it down some more if it can.
Yeah, the size was right, but the depth was not.
Okay, well, so that's easily fixed. Well, let me see how far off it is from making it right. Okay, so we're going to correct that. Take that bud out of there. Just pull it back, and we're going to give you the knife, and all you do is cut a little bit more away at the top.
Oh, okay.
Right, like
good,
that.
yeah. And let's see. Is my mouth good?
Yeah, your mouth's fine. I'd say go a little more. There you go. Now you got it. Now you got it. Now I'll put it in there. I got the knife.
Oh wow, matches up nicely.
You're pretty darn good now, Wade. You're pretty darn good. All right, so put this under your arm again. So you got both hands.
Mm-hmm. And stretch this a little bit first.
Stretch it a little first, out on the other tip.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, a little more. There you go. Now lay it right over the top, and use this finger and catch it. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That way. See how that helps you keep it flat?
It does.
By using that finger. Your ring finger is just right for doing that. Okay, keep coming up. Stretch it.
See, it's slipping a little bit, so I'm going to put it back.
Yeah, so squeeze it to make it go back to fit on it. You didn't stretch your tape as you went. See, that away.
I can back it up and stretch it a little.
Well, yeah, it'd be better if you did. Yeah, go ahead, stretch it out. That away. There you go. Yeah, just keep stretching now. Now, just pull that all the way out and keep going up, and when you run out, you're done. And just kind of glue it down to itself. There you go.
All right.
Good job, Wade.
We'll get to monitor this and see if it takes.
Yeah.
So who else wants to do it? Great.
Tom's up. You got the piece of wood that you want to work with?
No, I was just practicing. on
Okay,
this one.
great. Well, we have a bud there that we don't have a handle on. We haven't been using these handles very much, actually.
Okay.
But the diameter is such that I would say that you ought to try to work up here. We'll just cut. We'll
That
just
one?
yeah, work in right there.
So you don't need to have a bud.
Oh,
on this
no,
one?
no, those buds are useless to us.
Okay.
What we're wanting to do is put one on that's of a new variety.
Okay.
We're actually, if we leave that bud that's in there on this tree, in the spring, if this one heals and it's going to grow and the bud starts to grow, we're going to rub this one off.
Oh,
Because we don't want it. We want to have a tree made of this.
Okay.
And so we're not only going to put the bud in here and rub this one off, we're going to cut the whole top of the tree off.
I see.
And that makes that bud make the new limb.
All the goodies go to this.
All the goodies go to that. That's right. So
this one
so
you start like this.
all right. Are you left-handed?
Another one.
Oh, it's all right. I would say if you feel comfortable doing it, put this thumb on top of the other one, because you get
How
more.
about like that?
Yeah, but get that finger out from underneath there. Now you're talking.
Like that?
Yeah.
So that far down?
Oh, you're a little too far. Yeah, that's
About
better. That's better.
And about that angle?
Yep. Yeah, rock it back and forth so you get down into the wood on that one.
About halfway in?
Yeah. Now, you're cutting your bud first, which is all right. But now if you're going to cut this bud, now what you're going to do is move these fingers up to there and flatten the knife a little more. And you're going to get started and get down there near, and then move your fingers back some more, and when it gets hard right underneath the bud, you rock it back and forth. That's right, to cut, make the cut. But you see, by having your thumbs together, you're controlling it, so you're not going to cut this finger.
It's already been cut before.
Well,
we don't want to cut it again.
No, right. Keep moving it down there to your.
So is that a good?
You got to go all the way down to your notch. Now it slipped on you a little bit when it got easy. And you went down, you came up some. You go ahead now and just don't try to correct that. Just keep it slanted down, that away, and keep going until you get to your notch.
I think I'm
Okay,
there.
you got it. So put that in your mouth. You can see what happened to you when you got underneath the bud and it got easy.
You just leave it there until you're done with this?
Until you just leave it in your mouth until you're ready to get that done. Yeah. Good pearwood.
And where are we going on
Right,
this?
right in here.
Okay.
So how long before the enzymatic action in the mouth starts to take out the cambium?
That's what I was thinking.
Wait a minute.
There you go. That away, Tom. Yeah, that away. Rock it. Now, don't worry about the flap. We're going to cut the flap after we cut down to there. That's plenty deep. That's plenty deep. Okay? Now move up. Now think about how long that is.
Let's get my little piece out here.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
We want to start up about here.
Yep. And now you won't have a bud in the way, so you won't have to rock it as much to get there. You just keep pushing down through, and when you get to the notch, you go beyond the notch a little ways to have a flap left over. There you go. A little more yet. Rock it a little bit. There you go. Good. Good. Throw that away. Put your bud in. That's very nice.
But this is where the handle comes
That's
in.
where the handle comes in handy. A handy handle. There you go. I can't remember. Did I give you a rubber band?
A Band-Aid?
A Band-Aid.
See, this split right here. I guess we can Band-Aid that up?
Yeah, well, we're going to say that you got a little too deep there.
Okay.
But there we go. Thank you.
Stretch it before you do it.
You put it in here and then stretch it?
You can do it that way. It actually works a little better if you stretch it first, but
Okay.
because then you got something to work with that you can hold.
So let's see.
All right, so as you come around there, just however you can do it to keep it flat and keep it stretching as you go. So now it's sliding a little on you. See it, how it's sliding this
Oh,
way?
right,
So
yeah.
so just correct that by pushing it back over. There you go.
And go right over the
yeah,
bud?
go right over the bud and keep going up. See how you got that chance to correct it by just watching it?
So if he took off, went a little deeper than he should, would it make sense to take some of the top off of the branch so there was less load on that?
Oh, I don't
You said
know.
we were going to take it off anyway, right?
But right now it's feeding it though.
Yeah, next year. We take it off in the spring.
I see.
But this is going to sleep here through the winter. Oh, you can just pull it tight without having to tie it. He was right. I tied it and made a demonstration of how you tie, but that's really what you do with rubber bands. Just pull it off now. That away. And yeah, that away. Nice job.
Okay.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, it's also simple, except the little parts of it is. All right, so let's figure out what.
Kind of delicate.
It is kind of delicate. Yeah, it is. Let's see if we can find something that'll work for us. Well, we're making a challenge for you. I think that right in here is going to be right in here or down here is going to be best. Actually, if you work down here, this is going to be in your way a little bit, but it's bigger wood that's a little easier to work with, and the fact that there's a bud there, that doesn't matter. You're going to throw it away. Throw it away anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So you start, with your knife on a big angle and pretty deep. Okay, that's good.
That's good?
Yep. No, not a girl. Yeah. Now, when you get to the bud, it's harder, so you rock it back and forth. Now it's going to go. Yeah. That's what happens. Okay. Well, now, so that's what we didn't talk enough about it, or we did talk about it, but you didn't realize how much it was going to change and how fast. Okay. So what I suggest we do is move up to here to a smaller diameter and start over.
Perfect.
Just leave that. Don't worry about it.
I'll forget it ever happened.
Yeah. Move up a little bit further, so you got. I would say right in there. Just make your bottom cut there, and your top right up in there. Remember to get that a girl.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah. Now, it won't slip this time. Like it'll stay more uniform because what happened was you got underneath that bud, and then when you got going hard, and then it went afterward. So, but in any event, you're trying to control. You just go ahead, make your slanted cut. Yeah, that way. Just keep rocking it back and forth, and when you get down to the bottom. There, now go a little deeper in that flap, so that flap there. Good. That's just what you need. All right, now look on this and find something that's about the same diameter. A bud this has to have a bud in it, of course.
Great.
Yeah, that guy's that's probably a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I think that if you can get that guy, try. The wood's actually likely to be kind of hard up there because mosquitoes after you. I think you have to go. You're pretty good. You're pretty good. I looked too narrow to me, but then when I looked at what you cut, I think you're doing darn good. Out of the way, rock it back and forth, and it's going to slip now. All right, you lost him.
So you've been doing everything towards you, and I was doing it all away.
Oh, well, you can. I did it toward myself.
Okay. Well, I just was doing it away from myself, and I think maybe that's
Just got to keep your thumbs together.
yeah.
So that you're controlling it by using this part of your hand. Your index finger is actually doing the control.
We probably shouldn't do that. He got mad.
No, I guess you were doing it. I don't remember.
You just relax. You're doing great. You're doing great. Now as you're under the bud, it's going to get hard. It's going to get hard. So you got to expect that it might take off right after you get through. So now go slow and move your fingers up close to where you're working, your thumbs, and keep working slow. So that now just stop for a minute, will you? So if you wanted to be very sure that you had control of it, turn it around and use your thumbs below it. Yes, there. Now, yeah, there you go. There. Perfect. That's perfect. That's just what you wanted. I'll take the knife.
Okay, that's yours.
Good job. See, so you see, you got the control of the knife by turning it around. Yeah. I got this for you. Got it in there? How's it fit? You like it?
Pretty okay.
Good. Here you go. So over the top of it, take this in this hand.
Okay.
And then use the other hand to stretch it.
Okay.
No, stretch. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now put it over the top. And
I'm going from the bottom up.
yeah. And pull it around and stretch it. That'll grow. Stretch it out some more. Stretch it some more. And then if the bud slides, correct it back into place. No, it's going good. Stretch the string. Yeah. We didn't give you a whole lot to work with there. It's pretty small.
It is.
So I'm pretty sure I bought this from A.M. Leonard online, and it's a major supply for garden supplies and nursery supplies, all kinds of tools as well. So it's once you get on there, they're going to send you an email or a catalog all the time. Good.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay, so what about you?
Cindy? Tom got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can practice at home.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. He's got a question here, Brian and Wade.
It's just about, so this is kind of the shape of the bud that often comes out when I cut a bud out.
Uh-huh.
And so it's wider.
At the bottom? Or in the middle?
Around where the bud is.
Yeah, well, of course, if you went just a little deeper, just a little bit deeper, it would be more, you wouldn't have that flare at the bud, right?
So I should just throughout be going a little bit deeper.
Into the wood a little bit deeper. Okay. It would, so then you'd have wider at the top, okay. and it would be more, well, if this comes off without a bud in it, usually you're doing it in between, so it tends to be very parallel.
Straight. Right.
And what you're concerned about is that it's not very parallel when you cut the bud. The deeper you go, the more that it'll be parallel all the way down.
And is it a problem that that's not the case? It's sticking out a little bit on either side, and
well, it's
not ideal.
It's not ideal.
Okay.
But if I had that situation, I was worried a lot about it. I probably would turn the bud a little bit so that one end was on one side and the other on the other, instead, to be sure that I had good contact on both sides.
Okay.
Everybody understand that? Great.
Listen, it turned out that 8 people was about perfect. We're going to run out of daylight, but we got through it where people could try it and feel comfortable trying it, I hope.
Everybody that wanted to try it got to try it, right? Mm-hmm. Great. That's hands-on. That's what we do.
All right, so just to review, the idea here is that we wanted to put one of these in, and as Debbie pointed out, we probably want to have the bud, if we were putting it into a backyard tree and going to put a bud in that was going to be, say, a new 1/4 or 1/3 of your tree, we'd like it to be in an angle that there's space for that, so you wouldn't want it to go back toward the main part of the tree that's already there. And what happens is that this bud that you put in August, it's now the time where days are shortening and the leaves are getting ready to start to get sensing the fact that the tree is gaining in hardiness and the leaves are going to come off. So that means that this bud is going to rest here over winter. And in the spring, we just cut the top right off of this. And that means that all the energy is going into this bud and the other buds that were left on of the tree. So once this bud gets started and growing, you rub off the buds that are below it, that you don't want.
All the buds down here too.
All the buds that are below it. Well, we don't go down in here and rub these off because in this case we're just trying to make a new tree out this way on this limb. Yeah.
So I had a question.
Just before you do, I want to remind you that not only do we have the possibility of having another variety in here, the other key reason that homeowners should be interested in this is if they have trees that are not bearing very well, it's probable that they're not getting enough pollen brought in from neighbors' apple trees. And you're trying to you then could expect that if you put in a different variety than the variety that's here, that you'd have pollen right here to pollinize the rest of the tree. So you got another variety and you got pollen for the variety that was skimpy in not producing enough.
So my question is, since by next year this may look pretty much like the rest of it, should we put marking tape to tell us that this is where the buds are?
Oh, that's the reason I brought the label, is that we really should be labeling the
Let's at least label it so we know where to cut off. And we know what it is because we only used one scion wood, right?
Well, the buddy tape's not going to fall off.
No, it'll be there in the spring, okay. Right, Debbie? But chances are that you would end up putting more than one bud in. So I'm just going to put 8, 11, 15 on this.
And Bob, we know in the next couple of weeks, or will it take longer to know if these grafts took?
We'll know by the 1st September. Now, the way we'd know, to be sure, would be that you have to go take the tape off. I would prefer not to do that. I'd rather have it be that we let it go through a whole process and that we come back to them and see if they're healed in the spring. What happens is that they'll make callus. You'll actually be able to see a little bulging callus along the sides of this bud, because the cambium, that bark is that thin that and it's touching the cambium of the other, and you actually can, if we did take it off, and it actually would make callus around the whole surface of that bud this fall. That's proving that it takes. That's proven that it did take.
It'll be hard to tell through the tape. It'll be hard to tell through the tape.
Yeah, it will be. So if you know which one you did and you want to look at it, well, I mean, bring your sharp knife out and cut the thing off on the 1st of September, because it won't matter if you take it off. It's just if your knife slips, then you lost the whole thing. Folks, I really have appreciated your coming out. We got the perfect evening. Pat's made the perfect place for us at Living Web Farm. So here we are. We're done.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Yeah, my pleasure.